Naimbag nga aldaw, I am Henry Francisco, the Regional Public Attorney of the Cordillera Administrative Region. To show our support to the PAO forensic team, we prepared a manifesto which reads, "The Public Attorney's Office, Cordillera Administrative Region hereby expresses its full support to the entire Public Attorney's Office in facing the challenges that beleaguer the institution. The unconstitutional rider inserted in the 2021 General Appropriations Act being the most recent one. Advancing the cause of the poor and destitute members of the community has never been easy and comfortable. It is neither glamorous nor financially rewarding. It always leads to a face-off with financial giants and influential persons, natural and juridical. It is selfless service, plain and simple. The PAO has embraced unconditionally this unwelcome task, and through the years, it earned the indignation of the rich and the powerful. With its limited resources complemented by voluntary assistance from different sectors, PAO was able to conduct forensic examinations on Dengbaksha victims, mostly children, and filed 159 criminal complaints against Sanofi, Pasteur, and some powerful individuals linked to the hasty inoculation project of the former administration. This act is rather laudable than detestable. It is not an overdoing of function or overstretching of mandate on the part of the PAO. Service is multifaceted and multidimensional. For the PAO, service to the poor is not limited to the traditional legal assistance where pen and paper are the only tools and the medico-legal reports from other government agencies are simply accepted as gospel truth. Conducting its own independent forensic examinations is necessary, especially when the case buildup leads to the filing of charges against the influential, the rich, and the powerful. It is even more necessary when the respondents are in control or attached to the other agencies. The lab examinations of the PAO are not meant to disrespect or refute each and every finding of the other forensic laboratories. Rather, it offers an alternative view to these findings in case of doubt. The PAO examinations are done to help, not to create contempt. Defunding the PAO Forensic Laboratory to the extent of denying its personnel their salaries is the height of disservice. It is not only the personnel who will bear the brunt, but the millions of poor clients who need independent and credible forensic results that can stand the crucible of legal battle. Through thick and thin, we choose to bond as one. In the name of service, we choose PAO. We support the PAO forensic team and our Chief Public Attorney, Persida Rueda-Acosta. Together, we stand with PAO. Salamat po.
I'm Attorney Marlon Ibuan, the Regional Director of the Public Attorney's Office, NCR. And on behalf of the lawyers and staff of PAO NCR, I would like to read the manifesto of support. Public service is a calling. Those who choose this path are aware that it can sometimes be a thankless job. Because despite our efforts and sacrifices, some people still find fault in what we do. It is therefore with a heavy heart and disappointment when politics play a hand in interrupting the services that are meant to help the public, especially the poor. We, the lawyers and staff of the Public Attorney's Office, National Capital Region, stand as one with our Forensic Laboratory Division, who has unfortunately borne the brunt of political maneuvering that defunded its operation and therefore effectively terminated the services of its medical and non-medical personnel. Only because they tried to help the families of the Dengbaksha victims find justice for the loss of their loved ones. There is something wrong with the system that seems to punish people in the public service just because, as their job description entail, they are just performing their official duties. We join the call for President Duterte and both houses of Congress to repeal the unlawful insertion in the 2021 General Appropriations Act regarding the budget of PAO that states that nothing in the appropriation should be used for the salaries or compensation or other operating expenses of PAO Forensic Laboratory Division. As leaders of our country and as fellow servants in the public sector, we seek your assistance in correcting this huge disservice not only to our colleagues in the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division, but also to the millions of Filipinos who rely on us for free legal aid. Thank you, and may we all tread the path of righteousness. Maraming salamat po.
I am Honor M. Sagsago. I am the Regional Director of PAO Region 1. The Public Attorney's Office is once again in the limelight for the wrong reason. After the 2021 General Appropriations Act was deliberated in the Senate, an insertion was made prohibiting, among others, the use of the fund for the salaries or compensation of the personnel of the PAO Forensic Laboratory and other operating expenses for it. Needless to say, this will effectively emasculate the Public Attorney's Office in the unwavering discharge of its duties and mandate. Through all these tribulations, I and the whole of PAO Ilocandia are solidly behind our Chief Public Attorney, Dr. Persida V. Rueda-Acosta, in her resolute fight for the removal of this insertion. We give our unequivocal support not only because she is our chief, but because it is proper, just, and legal, if only to uphold the rule of law. The items subject of the insertion are plantilla positions, created, funded, and filled up in accordance with the civil service rules. If the occupants are not qualified, then they should be removed on that ground with the observance of due process. But for more than a decade, the results of the work of the PAO Forensic Lab were never questioned, but were in fact appreciated, and the work ethics shown by its dedicated personnel were duly recognized. This senseless insertion ought to be removed. Otherwise, it will cement the public perception that the insertion is the ingenious retaliation of the two inserting senators for the filing of the Dengvaksha charges against their known clients, in which case they will forever be remembered as manipulatively moved by a warped sense of reason, of cold vindictiveness, and of their callous disregard for justice. In Region 1, we stand with the PAO.
I am Attorney Jefferson Tolentino Caro, the Regional Public Attorney of the Public Attorney's Office, Regional Office Number 2, Cagayan Valley. We, the men and women of PAO Region 2, join our Chief Public Attorney, Dr. Persida V. Rueda-Acosta, Dr. Erwin Erfe, and the PAO Forensic Team in strongly objecting to the unconstitutional, illegal, vindictive, and malicious insertion of a provision in the PAO budget embodied in the General Appropriations Act of 2021. The said insertion weakens the PAO's ability to discharge its primary mandate to be the principal law office of the government, to extend free legal assistance to indigent persons, and an affront to the constitutional guarantee that adequate legal assistance shall not be denied to any person by reason of poverty. The said insertion is an infringement of the President's power to augment items in the budget within the executive branch of the government. The said insertion is a violation of the rights of all the PAO forensic team to security of tenure, considering that no reorganization is being implemented and neither was any law passed mandating the abolition of the PAO Forensic Laboratory. Mabuhay po ang Public Attorney's Office, mabuhay Chief Acosta, mabuhay ang aming PAO Forensic Team.
Magandang araw po sa ating lahat. In behalf of the lawyers and staff of PAO Region 3, I, Attorney John Stephen S. Dunwan, declare our full support to our Chief Public Attorney, Dr. Persida V. Rueda-Acosta, and the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division, headed by Dr. Erwin Erfe, in fulfilling the mandate of the office to extend free legal services as well as to give scientific, methodical, and factual medical legal services to our indigent clients. In its passionate efforts to obtain justice for the Dengvaksha victims and their families, the PAO has been fraught with challenges of all forms and from all sectors of the society. However, these struggles have neither undermined nor retarded the services that the PAO and its Forensic Laboratory Division has rendered to the victims of Dengvaksha and their families. In fact, the PAO has successfully filed cases now pending before the Regional Trial Court, specially designated by the Honorable Supreme Court to try these cases. Once more, the PAO and its Forensic Laboratory Division faces yet another challenge, obviously to impair its efforts, that is, the insertion in its budget in the 2021 General Appropriations Act, prohibiting its use for salaries, compensations, and maintenance and other operating expenses. This insertion, being unconstitutional, should be struck down. I have had the opportunity to actually witness the careful, objective, and scientific medical legal services that the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division rendered to the Dengvaksha victims from Central Luzon. They performed their duties without fear or favor, and without reservation, but only that wholehearted dedication to find out the truth and expose it. To approve this insertion is to curtail the services of the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division, and to restrict such laudable service is to deny the Dengvaksha victims and their families the justice and peace they deserve. We appeal to both houses of Congress to remove this insertion. Let the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division continue its service. To our Chief Public Attorney, Dr. Persida V. Rueda-Acosta, and the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division, we support you. Together, we shall overcome.
Hello, my name is Attorney Howard B. Areza. I am the Regional Public Attorney for 4B Mimaropa. I will be reading our manifesto of support on behalf of all the district office of PAO Mimaropa. So this is our manifesto of support. Okay, the Public Attorney's Office Mimaropa Region give our full support to the PAO Forensic Services Division and its component medical personnel mandated to independently conduct impartial and efficient investigation of the cases handled by the PAO. We vehemently denounce the insertion of the unreasonable and baseless provision prohibiting the use of the monthly operating and other expenses or MOE and salaries of the personnel in the 2021 General Appropriations Act regarding the budget allocated for PAO, to wit, the Forensic Laboratory Division. Nothing in the appropriation provided in this act shall be used for the salaries or compensation, personnel, travel allowance, meetings, and maintenance and other operating expenses of the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division. We humbly submit that this insertion in the proposed 2021 GA is highly unconstitutional, oppressive, and involves an ethical machination geared to harass and limit the PAO as a whole institution. Patently, the insertion of such provision involves a lot of political interplay, and we are deeply saddened that the PAO is being victimized by political bullies. The PAO has from day one championed the welfare of the indigent sector of the society, even before the onset of the issue on Degvaxia. The PAO has served the society to our PAO forensic services. As it is only now that the PAO forensic services is being attacked, the timing is quite unusual and questionable, if not at all shady and underhanded. Undoubtedly, this is a notorious manipulation and involves grave abuse of their legislative prerogative, clearly aimed to hamper the free legal services of the PAO offers to the needy. It must be noted that the PAO Forensic Division is not solely made for the Dengvaxia cases, but more importantly, it is existed to conduct and present credible evidence hinged on forensic science. The Public Attorney's Office Mimaropa Region give our complete support to our beloved Chief Public Attorney, Dr. Persida V. Rueda-Acosta, and join the rallying call to our esteemed legislators to reconsider this tactical move aimed to paralyze the PAO's Forensic Laboratory Division and the PAO as a whole institution. We are thus humbly beseeching both houses of the Congress to perform their sworn duties and do the right thing by removing the insertion of the oppressive provision in the 2021 GAA, or the General Appropriations Act. Sirs and Madams, you will be going the extra mile in serving our fellow countrymen.
Ako po si Attorney Revelyn V. Ramos Tacpano, ang Regional Public Attorney ng PAO Region 4A, ang Calabarzon Region. Akin pong ipinararating sa inyo ang aming Joint Manifesto of Support to the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division personnel. We, the public attorneys and staff of the PAO Calabarzon Region, hereby manifest our full and unequivocal support for the tenured medical and non-medical personnel of the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division, occupying permanent plantilla positions, who were all discriminatorily terminated from their employment by the insertion of an unlawful, repressive, and vengeful rider in the General Appropriations Act of 2021. Prohibiting the use of the PAO budget for compensation, salaries, and hazard pay due to the said personnel and in the operation of the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division. We affirm our unwavering support for the initiative of the DBM and the PAO in establishing the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division, which has proven to be crucial in carrying out the orders of the Department of Justice to assist the poor bereaved families of the Dengvaxia victims, bring those responsible before the courts of law. We uphold the unrelenting efforts of our Chief Public Attorney to foil the veiled attempt to hinder the PAO from seeking justice for the Dengvaxia victims through the aforementioned inserted unconstitutional provision in the General Appropriations Act. We all take the moral high ground of going for all-out justice to the families of all those who perished after being recklessly inoculated by the Dengvaxia vaccine, thus strongly verbalizing the need for the continued operation of the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division that is mainly responsible for collecting fair and sound scientific evidence to build up criminal and civil cases against alleged perpetrators of the Dengvaxia deaths. We assert that justice for the Dengvaxia victims and for all other clients of the PAO who need scientific evidence to prove their innocence is an important ingredient to the country's future and is a path towards the attainment of social justice that we all must remain firmly committed to achieving in adherence to the 1987 Constitution. We appeal to both houses of Congress and to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte to to pursue the track of social justice by exercising their prerogatives in order that the unlawful insertion in the 2021 General Appropriations Act be discarded and the PAO may be fully able to continue its mission to attain justice for the needy and the poor. Signed, this 3rd day of December, 2020.
Magandang araw po sa lahat. Ako po si Attorney Giselle Garcia, Regional Public Attorney ng Public Attorney's Office, Region 5. Sa ngalan po ng bumubuo ng PAO Bicol Region, kami po ay nananatiling tapat at nakikiisa sa panawagan ng aming hepe, si Dr. Persida B. Rueda-Acosta, sa ating mga butihing mambabatas na isaalang-alang muli ang kanilang naging desisyon na tanggalan at alisan ng budget ang aming Forensic Laboratory Division. Ito po ang budget para sa mga sweldo ng mga empleyado dito at budget para sa kanilang gastusin at operasyon. Simula na mabuo ang aming Forensic Laboratory Division, napakarami na po silang natulungan, mapasibil o criminal cases man ang mga ito. Hindi lang mga biktima ng denbaksya ang kanilang tinutulungan, kundi maging mga biktima ng iba't ibang klaseng krimen na lumalapit sa aming tanggapan. At hindi rin lang mga biktima ang kanilang tinutulungan, kundi maging mga akusado o mga taong inaakusahan na walang pambayad o walang kakayahang kumuha ng mga pribadong doktor o abogado para patunayan ang kanilang mga kaso. Isa po sa kanilang mga natulungan ay ang aming kababayan na si Binibining Bonita Baran. At kung inyo pong matatandaan, siya po ang katulong na nabulag dahil sa pagmamaltrato ng kanyang mga amo. At dahil po sa tulong ng aming forensic team, ng aming Forensic Laboratory Division, siya po ay nabigyan ng hustisya sa pamamagitan ng pagkakakulong ng kanyang mga amo. Napakarami pa po kami mga kliyenteng mahihirap na naghahangad ng katarungan, mapabiktima man o akusado na lubos na nangangailangan ng tulong at serbisyo ng aming Forensic Laboratory Division. Sila po ang mga taong umaasa sa aming mga doktor, nurse at iba pang mga kawani na bumubuo ng aming Forensic Laboratory Division. Dahil dito, kami po ay buong pusong umaapila at nakikiusap na ibalik na ang kanilang budget. Maraming salamat po.
Good morning. The men and women of PAO Region 6 fully and strongly support Chief Public Attorney Persida B. Rueda-Acosta, Dr. Erwin Erpe, and the entire PAO forensic team. The one-sentence insertion in the PAO budget is unconstitutional. Article 6, Section 25, Paragraph 2 of the Constitution requires that any provision in the General Appropriations Act must relate specifically to a particular item of appropriation of an office. The insertion does not relate specifically to any item in the budget of the PAO. Instead, it limits the entire budget of the PAO as to how it will be used. Thus, it is called a rider, and all riders are unconstitutional. Secondly, the insertion is an inappropriate provision under the doctrine of inappropriate provision. It is inappropriate because it has the effect of terminating permanent employees validly appointed by the Chief Public Attorney under Civil Service Rules and DBM guidelines. Thus, their security of tenure is being violated because there's no valid ground for their termination and the right to due process was not observed. And considering that the right to due process was not observed, in effect, it limits what is entitled to them under the Bill of Rights. Of course, some will say that it is a legislative prerogative. However, the legislative prerogative to legislate or to appropriate cannot be exercised in a manner that violates the due process clause under the Constitution. That is why we strongly believe that the one-sentence insertion in the budget of the PAO is unconstitutional. Again, the men and women of PAO Region 6 fully and strongly support Chief Acosta, Dr. Erfe, and the entire PAO forensic team. Laban lang!
The Public Attorney's Office has always been a dynamic office, willing to adapt to changes in the pursuit of its mandate to assist indigent and qualified persons. As a result thereof, the Forensics Division was created with the authority of the DBM and pursuant to civil service rules. The suppression of the functions of the PAO Forensics Laboratory Division with a measly one-sentence insertion in the General Appropriations Act by people whose intentions are questionable is indeed a travesty of justice and a disservice to the Filipino people. We, the men and women of PAO Region 7, will not allow this suppression. Nagatuo mi na dili sakto ng ilang gibuhat sa among PAO Forensics Team, kami naghihiusa sa pagsuporta sa PAO Forensics Team kay kami nagatuo na kinahanglan gyud ang among mga pobreng kliyente sa ilang serbisyo.
Isa po kami sa Eastern Visayas sa mga natulungan ng Forensic Laboratory Division ng Public Attorney's Office. Noong nasalanta ang Tacloban City ng bagyong Yolanda, napakarami pong mga katawan ang hindi na natukoy at makilala ng kanilang mga pamilya. Isa po ang PAO Forensic Laboratory Division sa pangunguna ni Dr. Erwin Urfi at Chief Public Attorney Dr. Persida V. Rueda-Acosta sa mga tumugon at nagbigay ng pag-asa sa mga biktima ng Super Typhoon Yolanda. Personal po silang pumunta dito sa Tacloban City at tumulong sa ating pamahalaan sa pag-recover ng mga buto at ilang mga bangkay. Hindi lamang mahalaga ang PAO Forensic Laboratory Division sa mga bagay na may kaugnayan sa kaso, kundi napakalaking papel ang ginampanan at gagampanan nito sa ating lipunan. Katulad ng PAO Forensic Division, ang ating mahal na Pangulo noong mayor pa siya ng Davao City ang isa sa mga unang rumisponde at tumulong sa amin matapos ang bagyong Yolanda. Magkapanabay, magkatulad ang hangarin ng ating Pangulo at ng PAO Forensic Division, ang makapagsilbi sa mga maralitang Pilipino. Kami po ay nananawagan sa ating mahal na Pangulo na makinig sa daing ng libu-libong mahihirap na Pilipino na umaasa sa libre at dekalidad na serbisyo legal ng Public Attorney's Office. Kami po ay nananawagan sa Pangulo na iveto ang mga probisyon na nakapaloob sa 2021 budget na nagbabawal sa PAO na gamitin ang pundo nito para sa operation, para sa pagsahod ng aming mga kasamahan sa Forensic Laboratory Division. Kayo po, mahal na Pangulo, ang pag-asa naming lahat bilang kampyon ng masa at ng maralitang Pilipino.
I am Attorney Edgardo D. Gonzalez, Regional Public Attorney of PAO Zamboanga Peninsula Region. In behalf of the men and women of the Public Attorney's Office in Zamboanga Peninsula Region, we give our full support to the forensic services and its component medical personnel, which provide scientific and medical services to the PAO cases involving indigent clients and litigants. The services being provided by the PAO Forensic Division is necessary for the fulfillment of the PAO's mandate in providing adequate legal assistance or services to the poor, the underprivileged, and the marginalized segments of our society. Its services are not only limited to PAO clients in the Baksha cases, but in other cases of the PAO as well. The insertion of a provision by the Honorable Senate prohibiting the use of budget allocations for the PAO under the proposed 2021 General Appropriations Act for the salaries and compensations of personnel, travel allowances, meetings, and maintenance and other operating expenses of the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division is incapacitating the PAO in fulfilling its mandate to provide adequate legal assistance to the indigent, as well as denying the poor clients of the constitutional rights to adequate free legal assistance. On top of that, the prohibition in the proposed budget allocations for the PAO will result in the dismissal from employment of the personnel in the PAO Forensic Laboratory who are duly appointed and qualified to the positions in accordance with law. Such dismissal would necessarily result to the dismissal or termination of employment without just cause. Thus, we beg the Honorable Congress, particularly the Senate, to reconsider and remove said insertions in the proposed 2021 General Appropriations Act, prohibiting the use of budget allocations for the PAO for the salaries or compensation of personnel, travel allowances, meetings, and maintenance and other operating expenses of the PAO Forensic Laboratory, for they are highly irregular, unjustifiable, and unconstitutional. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ako po si Attorney Abisina V. Alonto Sr., Regional Public Attorney ng Bansa Moro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Kami po dito sa BARM ay taus-pusong nananawagan at umaapila sa ating mahal na Pangulong Duterte na huwag po ninyong payagan na ang karapatan na gamitin ang forensic laboratory services ng mga mahihirap na kliyente ng Public Attorney's Office ay mawala sa pamamagitan ng pagtanggal ng budget para sa forensic laboratory sa Senado. Kaya po, pahintulutan po ninyo iparating ang aming mensahe. Alang-alang po sa aming 13 milyong mahihirap na kliyente na umaasa po sa inyo. Ito po ang aming manifesto of support to and solidarity with our Chief Public Attorney, Dr. Persida V. Rueda-Acosta. In Article 13 of 1987 Constitution, Section 1 states, "The Congress shall give highest priority to the enactment of measures that protect and enhance the right of all people to human dignity, reduce social, economic, and political iniquities, and remove cultural iniquities by equitably diffusing wealth and political power for the common good." The foregoing provision capsulizes the essence of social justice as the guiding principle in drafting congressional bills to ensure optimal flowering of human dignity, especially the marginalized members of society. The present controversy affecting the Public Attorney's Office should not be much about legal semantics, but more about our poor clients, their needs, their sentiments, their hopes, their choices, and about empowering them with sufficient tools, environment, and institutional framework for a fair and just litigation. To shut down the PAO's Forensic Laboratory Division completely and permanently by a single stroke of legislative insertion, devoid of a full-blown congressional deliberation, is not only legally contentious, but also diametrically opposed to state policy of social justice. Our poor clients, not the Public Attorney's Office as an institution, are the direct casualties of this congressional act. On this note, PAO BARM strongly supports the relentless effort of our Chief Public Attorney, Dr. Persida V. Rueda-Acosta, to prevent such vicious attempt to cut off the needs, hopes, and choices of the poor. We are therefore strongly appealing to our beloved President Rodrigo Roa Duterte to exercise his presidential prerogative and influence to uphold social justice for our 13 million poor clients. Maraming salamat.
We, the lawyers and staff of Public Attorney's Office Region 10, appeal to the Congress and the President for the support to PAO in serving the marginalized members of the public. We believe in the integral role of PAO Forensic Laboratory Division in its rendition of scientific, methodical, and factual medico-legal services to our indigent clients. To fulfill this role, invaluable support through sufficient public funding is absolutely necessary. We plead for your support to PAO.
Kaya matibay ang walis, palibhasay nakabigkis. Ang katagang ito ay sumasalamin sa natatangi at lubos na pagkakaisa ng buong PAO Region 11 sa kasalukuyang pakikibaka ng aming pinuno, ng aming mahal na si Chief Persida V. Rueda-Acosta upang maisantabi ang hindi makatarungang probisyon na isiningit sa aming pondo sa PAO Forensics Division na kung saan mga doktor at empleyadong sakop nito ay matatanggalan na po ng trabaho. Ito ay labag sa batas ng serbisyo sibil sapagkat ang mga doktor at empleyado ng aming PAO Forensics Division ay mga regular na empleyado ng gobyerno dahil sila po ay may hawak ng plantilla posisyon na galing sa DBM. Hindi kayo nasa nakararami kung gaano ibinuhos ng aming pinuno na si Chief Persida V. Rueda-Acosta at ng aming ahensya sa kabuuan ang lahat ng pagsisikap ng sa gayoy mabigyan ng magandang serbisyo ang milyong-milyong kliyenteng humihingi ng tulong sa aming opisina. At higit po namin silang ipinaglalaban na makamit nila ang justisya, lalo na po ang pamilya na biktima ng dengbaksya na lubos na nangungulinan na sa pagkamatay ng kanilang mahal sa buhay. Tunay na masasabi namin na ang PAO lamang po ang natatanging nagbibigay sa kanila ng sinag ng pag-asa upang makamit ang hustisya at tuluyan ng maghilom ang sugat na dulot ng dengbaksya. Ang panggigipit sa pondo ng PAO ay isang matinding hamon na batid naming mapagtagumpayan ng aming pinuno na si Chief Persida V. Rueda-Acosta sapagkat nasa kanya at sa aming lahat ang panig ng katarungan. At dahil dito, muli namin ipinapahayag ang aming lubos na suporta sa aming pinuno at sa kanyang mga ipinaglalaban. At wika nga sa kasabihan, ang bayaning nasusugatan, nag-iibayo ang tapang. Kami po ay nananalig na ang kasalukuyang sitwasyong ito ay lalong magpapatibay sa aming pinuno na si Chief Persida V. Rueda-Acosta sa tulong po ng ating poong may kapal upang huwag bumitiw at bagkus ay pagtibayin niya ang laban at ipanalo ito hanggang sa sukdulan. Maraming salamat po.
I am Serviliano Santiago A. Lorenzo III, the Regional Public Attorney of the PAO Surgeon Region. This is to express the PAO Surgeon Region's full and unconditional support to the PAO Forensic Team. The PAO Forensic Team has been instrumental in providing scientific proof in support of cases handled by PAO lawyers nationwide for the past 16 years. The unlawful deprivation of the operating expenses of the PAO forensic team this year, as well as the insertion of a provision in the General Appropriations Act stopping the payment of their salaries and other benefits for the year 2021 is an underhanded, illegal, and cowardly strategy in harassing, intimidating, and coercing the PAO forensic team so that they would not do their duty in helping the indigent and underprivileged clients of the PAO. We call upon our honorable legislators and our beloved President to delete or veto this insertion and restore to the PAO forensic team their right to receive their salaries and benefits, as well as restore their operating expenses. Thank you.
I am Attorney Ingrid Tricia Irolio Nastor, the Regional Public Attorney of PAO Caraga Region. On the pressing issue besetting our office now, we remained united as regards our strong support to our Chief Public Attorney, Dr. Persida V. Rueda-Acosta. We respectfully call for the removal of the inserted provision in the proposed 2021 national budget, which aims to prohibit the use of the PAO maintenance and other operating expenses, or MOOE, for the salaries or compensation of personnel, travel allowance, meetings, maintenance, and other operating expenses of the PAO Forensic Laboratory Division. We believe that the said provision is in essence a huge punch, not just to the Public Attorney's Office as an institution, but most significantly to the poor clients of PAO. The proposed abolition of the budget for our PAO Forensic Division would truly jeopardize the effective delivery of legal services to our clients by depriving them of credible and scientific evidences relevant to their cases and access to justice. We further believe that the aforesaid provision is contrary to the Constitution and existing laws. Thus, in the interest of public service, truth, and social justice, we stand with our Chief Public Attorney in appealing for the removal of that unconstitutional rider in the 2021 General Appropriations Bill. I stand with the Public Attorney's Office.
We stand with PAO! We stand with PAO!
We stand with PAO!
Stand with PAO!
We 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 stand with